Australia was the first country in the world to introduce a social media ban for under-16s. That happened last December. The Prime Minister today is saying that the government has learned from the Australian legislation and will follow more or less the same model. But there has been criticism of the ban and the implementation of it, with many teenagers in Australia still accessing social media. Well, let's find out what teenagers here make of the ban. I'm joined by 14-year-old Darcy. She's a girl guiding advocate. Also joining us tonight, 15-year-old Miley Williams. She is a social media influencer. And joining us, 16-year-old member of Youth Parliament, Tyler Parsons. Thank you all for joining us. Mickey Carroll is still with me in the studio as well. Well, this is a big move. It's come rather quickly. First of all, Darcy, I'll ask you what you think about it. What have you and your peer groups been saying about this move by the government today?
So I don't personally support this social media ban because I feel that it pushes the narrative that it's young people's fault that they aren't safe online, which is so untrue. It's the responsibility of social media companies and the government to monitor what's going on online and to make sure that social media is a safe space for our young people. I do think it's really good that the government is starting to realise just how much danger can be online, and it's really good that we're starting to take steps to ensure that young people do feel safe online.
Yeah. Miley, I'm going to bring you in. You're 15 and you're a social media influencer, but you're a bit 50-50 about this. You've carved out a large following. You have, what back in my day would be called a Saturday job. You're actually making money from social media platforms, but even you're on the fence about this one.
Yeah, I don't really agree much. I do agree, but I guess where they're coming from, I know where they're coming from, banning it, but I feel like 16 is a bit too high, because I feel like kids, I inspire all the kids, and I'm like, oh, well, I just, show everyone and all the kids, and they just love, what I do, and I just hate to see all of them go, because most of my followers are under 16.
So, for you, you feel like, basically, your career as an influencer would be over?
Not over. I can still have people over 16, but I still have a lot that are under 16.
Yeah. And have you seen anything unsettling or harmful online? Because presumably you're spending quite a lot of time on social media, socially and for your jobs. How many hours a day would you say you spend online? And what do you see? Do you see things that upset you?
I spend nearly half my day, because obviously I do content 3 times a day. I have to post videos 3 times a day, and I do most of my content on there. And I can say some unsettling things, but I normally just swipe them away because I just don't want to acknowledge them.
Yeah. Tyler, 16, you're just on the cusp. It won't affect you. You'd actually be supportive of a ban for under-13s. Again, you're sort of with Miley here, and you think, 16 and under is a bit too much.
Yes, definitely. I think it is a bit too much. However, I think seeing bereaved parents standing outside number 10 with pictures of their young children who have passed for taking their own lives is extremely upsetting. And I think that makes me more inclined to agree with the under-16s ban, because young people are taking their lives, and seeing parents standing there with pictures of their younger children that are no longer with them, I think is heartbreaking.
Tyler, do you think it all will work? Because, teens, since the dawn of time, have hidden things from their parents. They've lied, little white lies. I mean, we already know that teens will get around it. They have in Australia. Do you think this will work?
I think it's hard to say. I think, no, I don't think it will work. I think I compare it to vaping, because under-18s are banned from vaping, but a lot of younger children do. So how is the social media ban going to work when all you need is download a VPN and young people are accessing vapes from shops? So no, I don't think it will work.
OK, Darcy, do you think it will work? Because the argument that has been made today is that, the horse has already bolted for people your age, but it's generations to come. We're talking those who are 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds now. They won't have a world where social media is just the norm. It will be something that is phased in when you're 16?
I think it's definitely hard to tell because our generation has grown up with access to social media. We have had access to that whole aspect of the online world. And so I think in some ways it definitely won't work as well as it could, because with things such as age restrictions not working as well as they perhaps could, because young people can simply lie about their age and it doesn't have any sort of verification, which I think definitely needs to be improved in order to keep us safe online.
Miley, I think one of the things that I've been really interested in is about the potential impact of this on young people speaking out if they do see something harmful. There is a risk here, it feels like. If young people aren't supposed to be on these platforms and they do see something upsetting, do you think that they'll then be kind of stopped from speaking to an adult about it or confessing that they've been on social media in the first place?
It's like a little bit, because I mean, I speak to my mum about most of my like my mum like supports and protects all my like TikToks and everything. I only have one TikTok, and that's what my mum like. She manages everything, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the kind of big criticisms of the ban as a whole, is this idea that young people might kind of end up being put into kind of darker social media platforms or positions where they're not able to talk to adults about what they've seen. I mean, what do you think, Tyler? Do you think that kids are going to end up being pushed to kind of more unregulated platforms that aren't banned?
Yes and no. I think it really depends on the younger person. Some younger children find it easier to speak out, but some younger people don't find it easier to speak out. But on that question, what I do find interesting is talking about the social media ban as a whole, is that the Labour government did this 3 times and declined to do a social media ban. And I feel like they've taken quite a lot of credit for doing the social media ban when it was the Conservative Party that pushed it for a very, very long time. So I was slightly confused to see the U-turn and wondered why the government U-turned on it and why the Prime Minister changed his mind.
And Darcy, a final question, because we're just running out of time. In terms of children coming off social media, there was a girl asked today how much time she spent on screen. It was on another TV channel, and she said 9 hours, and she gave a typical teen answer when, you know, the reporter said, how will you spend your time? She said, staring at a wall. Obviously, as part of the Girl Guides, the government has said, look, they're going to pump more money into youth clubs. There are other things for children to be doing under 16. Do you think that message will get through? Because you're so caught up in the web now of social media. It's how kids socialise a lot of the time away from school.
I think that's quite a difficult thing, because I think it depends on the child, because for me and a lot of young people, I have access to kind of social networks outside of the online world, such as girl guiding. But a lot of young people don't have access to that, and social media is their main source of connecting to people, finding communities, and even finding out just their daily news and information about politics, all of that kind of thing. So I think it is quite a worry that it will completely disconnect young people from things that they're used to.
Well, Mickey is in the studio with me now, alongside parents who have been campaigning long and hard for this ban. Ellen Room, Lisa Kenovan. Ellen and Lisa believe that their sons, Jules and Isaac, died after online challenges that went wrong. And alongside them, Mariana Janin, his daughter Mia, took her own life after being bullied online. Thank you all so much for being with us this evening on what is a momentous day for you all. Ellen, I know that you have said this move wouldn't be perfect, but it's a really good start.
Oh, completely. We needed to do something, and it's fantastic news. We all did shed a tear in the House of Commons earlier today, hearing it announced. It's such a brilliant moment, and it may not be perfect, but I absolutely think it's the start of protecting children.
Yeah. Lisa, as I said, there's been a long and hard campaign, and I was watching it this morning on Sky News. And, you know, the campaigners in the room, whoops and cheers. I don't think we've ever had that at a Prime Minister press conference. And it's been such a quick turnaround from government, because just a matter of months ago, this wasn't on the table. They were going to water it down. And a lot of people have said, oh, it's a political move. But does it really matter? they're implementing it and quickly by spring of next year.
Yeah, I mean, that was the concerns, that there was not going to be this U-turn, but it happened. And I think on the basis of that, when we had a meeting with the Prime Minister, I do truly think he came away from that, actually had a huge reflection of what's happening in that room. You know, 17 children, photos no longer here. You can't walk away from that and not have that ticking in your head. So I really hope that that was one of the major kicks for him, and it's a historical moment. You know, we've carried our children with us all this time, and it feels like it's been, you know, a moment that should be celebrated. But we know what we mean by a celebration. You know, we had one journalist ask us to go out and do a little yay. We're like, that's not what this is about. You know, that's just so removed from what this is about. Yeah,
I mean, as you said, you carry your children with you in this, and that's why you're doing it, and for other families and their children. Mariana, what does it mean to you to be doing this in Mia's name?
I just have today in the House of Lords a momentum that I start to cry, and I thought about Mia. And I saw Lisa and Helen, and yes, we're doing this for them, but it's something that need to be, we need to do it. We need to change this.
Yeah, and it's just the start. I mean, as you said, not perfect, but a good start. Let's talk about some of the caveats that have been brought out today. Mickey, I know you've been doing work on this for months in terms of how would a ban actually work, because that's the next part of this, isn't it? And what have you uncovered over the months of research that you've been doing?
So yeah, I think we've kind of got the big announcement today, and now it's about the fine detail. So we know that in Australia, they are kind of age verifying in a very similar way to how we do now for adult content in the UK. So often that's facial age estimation. And in Australia, they've not been maybe as successful as they'd hoped with that. So now...
it's what, 6 months in now, is it?
About 6 months in, they started in December. So the government now is looking at what's worked there and what could work here. We spoke to the Minister for Online Safety earlier. He said that they'll kind of... We're not definitely going to do exactly what Australia is doing. We could end up with device-level age verification. We could end up with a slightly different system. I think a lot of experts suggest that that would be a better way forward. But there's a lot of granular detail to this that still needs to be ironed out. But I think today was the big moment, and the rest of it will be for people like us to dig into it.
And be coming out over the few months, because they're hoping to get this through by spring. And Ellen, it was interesting, actually, something that jumped out for me. I have a 12-year-old son, and he's not really interested in social media, but what jumped out for me is when the Prime Minister said, we're actually going further than Australia and other countries. We are going to impose restrictions or a ban on children chatting to strangers online for gaming. And that is another way that children socialise now, whether it be, you know, Roblox, you know, their PlayStation, they can chat to strangers online. And they're also going to ban AI bots. So, you know, teenagers now have imaginary girlfriends and boyfriends, and they're AI generated. What did you make of that, Ellen? Because for me, that addresses a few more issues, and it goes further than what we thought the Prime Minister might.
I mean, Liz Kendall called it an Australian plus ban. So what they're actually looking for is highly effective age restriction to make sure the children on the platform are the correct ages that they say they are. The chat box, I understand, I think that's going up to 18, which is great, you know, but they've gone further. I
didn't realise how prevalent that was. It's quite a thing, isn't it, amongst young people, Mickey? You've been investigating that.
And things like Snapchat, you've got predators finding exactly where your children are with live location on. That has to stop. That is not... You wouldn't have that happen in the real world. You cannot have it happen online.
Let's hear from Ian Russell, the father of Molly, who started the Molly Rose Foundation in her name. He, obviously, bereaved father, fighting for changes in this space, particularly with social media. But he has a slightly different take on what we heard today. Here he is.
I find it difficult to put into words the level of disappointment. I feel let down by a Prime Minister who, in opposition, promised to strengthen the Online Safety Act to make our digital world safer for children. early last year, we met briefly, and he promised me, father to father, that he took this matter very seriously. Well, those promises, I think, have been broken because there's debate about the best way forward, but quite frankly, the false hope that could come by announcing a blanket ban, 16 down ban, without acknowledging the unintended consequences that come with it, I think is just disingenuous. And to have held a consultation, albeit a speedy consultation, and to not given it the full time to come to the conclusions that he's come to, less than 3 weeks since the close of that consultation, to make these monumental decisions, when the evidence that I've heard from experts, the evidence that I've heard from people in Europe, the evidence that I've heard from the child protection, child safety sector in this country, academics, all sorts of people, was coming together to say quite clearly that banning young people, penalising young people, is not the answer, and the answer is to stop the problem at source by turning attention to the platform.
Mariana, I'm going to ask you to react to that, because during that you threw your hands in the air. And just to point out, you're all on the same side in trying to make the online world safe for children. You're all on the same side. You're just coming at it from different angles. What did you find frustrating about what Ian Russell said?
First of all, he say about the rush. It's not a rush. In our case, we've been there for 4 years, and any inaction is the worst thing that could happen. Now we, at least moving forward, it's happened in Australia, it will happen in another country, and I think the platform will be worried about, OK, everything start to close up on us. I think it's better to try to do something than sit and see what's going on and they, criticize.
Better to do something than nothing. Lisa, it's interesting that, you know, Ian Russell is coming at it from a different angle, and I was looking on social media earlier on at Reaction, I came across one mum who has teens, and she put banning children from platforms worth billions that should be made to police them properly is the wrong people facing consequences to me. She was pointing to the fact that her teenage girls find so much joy and connection in social media, and they're now going to be shut out from that. That, you know, it's not them that are making the platforms bad, it's bad actors, and social media platforms need to be tackling them, not the teens.
First of all, we've had enough time to give these platforms a chance to, you know, ramp up protection with the children.
They've been asked to put in reasonable protections.
Absolutely, and it's not been happening, you know. And there was a proof of like 96% of adults or parents actually wanted this ban. 96%, you know, and you've got like 40-odd% of children. Now, children, they've been brought up in the digital world, in the social media world, so they don't really know much difference. So this is going to be a chance to get them out there, to have their childhood and learning different ways of how to actually be socialising again.
And another question, did this ban have to happen, Mickey? Because it has been pointed out that there is the Online Safety Act that was put through, has many checks and balances in place. And Ian Russell, again, in that interview with Cathy Newman, said enforcing the Online Safety Act is rubbish, to quote him. Regulatory bodies like Ofcom need to do better. The government has asked for an urgent review into Ofcom to make sure it's up to the job. You know, that comes to how we enforce this ban as well, doesn't it? The regulation and the enforcement just isn't fit for purpose as it stands.
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the arguments against a ban, is that we actually have quite a lot of regulation in place already through things like the Online Safety Act that just hasn't been enforced. So I was speaking to someone a couple of days ago, a young person, who said he thought that we should ban all under-13s from social media. We actually already have. They're not supposed to be on there, but platforms just don't enforce that. And so there is the argument that if we had a stronger if we had a kind of stronger stance on those rules that already exist, then a ban like this wouldn't need to be put in place. But obviously we've got to the point where a lot of parents, I think we heard yesterday, it was 8 in 10 adults wanted restrictions of some sort. We've got to that point now where the Prime Minister has felt that pressure to put this in.
The Prime Minister acknowledged, Ellen, the challenges, and some teens will find a way around it. We know teens, you know, for forever have hidden things, lied about things. He compared it to drinking alcohol. Teens drink before they should, but, you know, we don't say, well, let's just abandon any attempt to stop them buying alcohol. And I think the point that I've heard a lot today is that for many teens now, the horse has bolted. They will find a way around it and have some kind of social media presence. It's the generations coming up. It's the 7, 8, 9-year-olds younger that will actually feel the benefit of
100%.
this.
Yeah. Absolutely. We've got to change the shift. We've got to make it the norm that teenagers aren't wanting that. I do particularly like the way the government are going to put other things in place. So they're talking about other after-school clubs, other activities, and I can't remember the amount of money that they were going to spend on that, but it was quite a substantial amount.
To provide alternatives.
Yes, and that's
Because
great.
for many children, it's, you know, it's you know, they feel less isolated because they have a phone and they can connect with children that they might not be able to do at school or whatever.
Yeah, but we're not banning the internet here. There are other sites, you know, that they can access, you know, regulated sites. Some of the charities that have got the ability for them to contact them and cry for help if they need it. But actually, we need to get them out in the real world, making friends, eye contact with people, learning how to interact. The real life things, getting dirty in the mud, you know, how kids used to be, and not spending 14 hours a day or whatever on a device. It's just not. It's not healthy.
There was a child interviewed early this morning at a school, and the interviewer said, "So how long have you been on your phone?" It's like 10 hours. And she said, "What are you going to do without your phone?" She said, "Just stare at the wall, I guess." Now, how depressing is that?
Yeah.
That's just so sad.
Well, listen, Ellen, Mariano and Lisa, thank you so much for your time. Mickey as well, doing it for Jules, Mia and Isaac. A big step forward today, but as we've been discussing, so much more to come, so much more to talk about, and we'll continue the conversation. I really thank you for your time.